thanks everybody for coming out. I see a lot of new faces, which is very cool. I see a lot of familiar faces as well. Thanks for coming back. My name is Corey Snipes. I'm a software engineer. I work in aviation and aerospace stuff. I am currently studying for my Part 107. I'm not a Part 107 pilot yet, but I'm planning to take the test in December, so pretty excited about that. I am the board secretary for the North Coast Drone Alliance, which is the organization that's putting this on. We are a public service organization. We're an Ohio nonprofit. We do education and outreach, and we have a couple different programs that we work on. But we're very safety focused, and we're very interested in flying legally. And so if that's sort of your thing, then we bring people in who work with drones and commercial drone stuff, and who work especially on a national scale, and try and learn from them. So thank you for coming in. That's what we do. So we have these meetups every month. Next month, we're planning to do a get together and fly meetup rather than an indoor classroom kind of meetup. And then we'll be back in November with flying in the winter will be one of the topics. And then one of the guys who's involved with this group sometimes is going to talk about his process or his experience getting authorized to fly in Canada. So we'll have a little Canadian international intrigue in November as well. So tonight, though, we're going to have two presentations. Tom and Ashley will present on the Flight to Remember Foundation, and then at the end, or after that, we'll talk a little bit about drone insurance. It'll be more of a kind of roundtable group discussion at that point. But I'll let you do the proper introduction. But Ashley and Tom run the Flight to Remember Foundation. Started in 2015, I think. 2017. All right, I'll let you speak. See, I'm already messing it up.
Tell you all
But they work with a very active board, and they also work with a network of national pilots and partners. I'll just let you describe it.
That's fine. That's fine.
I think the work is very innovative,
Your
and I think
introduction is perfect.
well, there you go.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So has anybody heard of the Flight to Remember Foundation? Awesome. Thank you. Awesome. So yeah, we're a nonprofit, and tonight I think what we're going to do is kind of walk you through how we got started, what we do, the value it has for our participants, and answer any drone-related questions. So I think what we're going to do is start with a quick video, because I think this is the best way to kind of, in a nutshell, let you guys understand what exactly we do, and then we'll get into the presentation.
You might not hear it very well.
The speakers and the laptop, not that good.
It's not the best.
The Flight to Remember Foundation uses innovative unmanned aerial technology, or drones, to provide priceless moments of happiness during life's most trying times. We provide our services to nonprofit, community-based hospice organizations. The Flight to Remember experience virtually transports participants to a meaningful location that they are longing to visit one more time. Our participants, along with family and loved ones, work with their caregivers to identify the location that means the most to them. This selection process alone has served as a way for our participants and their loved ones to reminisce and reflect on the happiest of times, places, and people in their lives. From there, our hospice partners will submit a request with a detailed location and a comprehensive description of the special location. These locations have included the patient's home, their church, their school, family vacation homes, lakes, parks, and even ancestral homes across the globe. Flight to Remember is a global network of drone pilots who volunteer to provide these experiences. Based on the selected location, we assign the nearest pilot, and they go on site to collect beautiful aerial footage. Our pilots check their equipment, comply with all operating requirements, and ensure all FAA rules are followed during flight. Pilots will capture the specific location and the surrounding area, typically within a half-mile radius. Our video editors create a stunningly beautiful highlight video with the drone footage. We provide a digital copy of the video, and our participants gather with their loved ones for the Flight to Remember experience. In the comfort of their home or the hospice facility, they enjoy this life-enriching moment together. Many times, the video is watched over and over again. It brings peace to our participants and lasting positive memories for their loved ones. We believe everyone should have the opportunity to visit that special place one last time. We are committed to help you provide this service. Visit us at www.flighttoremember.org to learn more.
All right, so I hope that was helpful. I guess the general idea, and we'll get into this more, is we work with hospice organizations, and when participants can't leave their facility or their home, we are able to let them virtually visit these meaningful locations. And it's, that was the concept, and it's just grown over the last 4 years, and we'll tell you all about it. So what our presentation today is, we're gonna, again, want to tell you how we got started and got into the drone world and all those adventures, the process we use now and the business, the people that are involved, the value we've seen out of this, and then some stories that are exciting stories as drone pilots will appreciate, and then figure out how you guys can get involved if you want to and help out and be a drone pilot. So we will start with how we got into drones. So I think it was late 2013, Ashley's mom actually showed me a YouTube video of, I don't remember what it was like the Amazon jungle or something, and this guy had a DJI Phantom, and he had this awesome footage. I'm like, what is that, And I started researching. I'm like, I gotta get one of those. And so I went on eBay, and there was an original Phantom, no camera, all that stuff. And we were sitting on the couch, and I'm looking at the thing, and there was a bid for like $400. And I'm like, I'm gonna click it, And I clicked it, figuring, because these things were expensive, that I wasn't gonna win, and ended up winning the bid. And I had to explain to Ashley that I won this bid.
Sitting on the couch with our newborn.
Yeah, we had a brand new kid, and I was like,
to start a crazy expensive
I
hobby.
just spent $400 on this thing. She's like, oh, great.
Perfect.
So those, did anybody have the original Phantom with the no camera on it and all that stuff? So the original Phantom was a DJI product. It had no camera. You could hard mount a GoPro to it, or you could buy these cheap gimbals from China that were like $40 on eBay, and you'd wire it up, and this thing would attempt to be a gimbal. I'm assuming everyone flies drones, so you know how that is. And this thing would shake all the time. You'd have to do all this stuff. But that was the original thing we got out there, and you used to have to take the drone and spin in a circle to get your bearings and everything. So I learned how to fly with that, crashed, a ton of times. I would take the thing apart, resolder the motors, and do all this crazy stuff. But started to learn and started doing some cool, videos, and wanted to get into, the drone world. So I ended up moving into better drone. I think I bought an Inspire next. Does everybody know what the Inspire is? It's the bigger, professional consumer version from DJI. And I started a small company called Aerial Anthropology. And my idea was I'd do construction stuff and real estate and all the drone things that were hot at the time that you could make a ton of money on. And so it was exciting. I created a logo and a company and all this cool stuff, and started getting different construction companies and real estate realtors having me come out and do new homes and all that. So I started making a little bit of money. I had friends from work. I work full-time at Highland Software in Westlake, and we had some guys that were making a feature-length film and knew I flew a drone, so I went and helped them and did some real film stuff with camera crews and all that. So I was super excited about everything, getting into all the drone stuff, making a little bit of money, and was really excited. And then one day I was talking to one of my really good friends, and it was his cousin's daughter, and she had a rare form of leukemia. And it was all in the news. It was the Amazing Maisie. I don't know if anybody from the West Side. So he was talking to me one day, and we talk all the time, and she was in and out of the hospital and was pulled out of school and would be in the hospital, and it's an immunodeficiency thing, so she couldn't have people around. And he was talking to me. They went in on during the week, and there was a field trip that the whole class was going to. And she was especially upset because she couldn't go to the field trip. So where he's telling me this on the phone, I'm like, hey, you know what? I just bought this new drone, and there's a button on here that I think you can live stream, from the drone. We could take the drone to the beach It'd be like she was there. And so he called her mom, and they're like, yeah, we won't be able to do it. We have tests and things, and you know, they weren't going to be able to do it. So like we, you know, didn't think anything. I sat down, and again, we're sitting on the couch, and I'm like, this would be awesome for hospice patients. You know, they're in that room, they're not going to leave. And so that night I went on to a bunch of websites and just hit the contact us page for a bunch of them, and nobody responded. And then after maybe a week or so, the Hospice of the Western Reserve, a nonprofit community-based hospice here in Cleveland, sent an email back, and it was from this woman, Jennifer Stonebrook, who was their, I think it was like marketing relations. And in her email, she said, I pitched the idea in the email, and she said, I don't have any idea what you're talking about. We've heard about drones. I don't understand what's going on. She's like, but come in and talk to us. So I went in and had a big meeting with them. I brought the Inspire in, and I brought all this stuff. Explained it to them for about an hour, and I still don't think they understood what we were talking about. But they said, this is great. Why don't you come in and talk to our CEO and our board and everything, and you can tell them what you think. So I did it again, and they're like, okay, I think we get the idea. Work with our staff, and you can try to find how to do one of these. So it was probably not, a month later, and this is, this is 2015, I think towards the end of 2015 by now. They said there was a woman that wanted to see Punderson State Park in, central Ohio. So we said, great, let's do it, and we didn't think through how this was all going to work and everything. So what we did is Ashley went to the hospice facility and was in the room with the family with the laptop ready, and I was at the park with, I think, a Phantom. I crashed the Inspire a couple weeks before, and we had to buy a Phantom professional.
Had to.
Yeah, right. Can't not do it. So I had the brand new Phantom, got it out there, and in my head I'm like, this is not going to work. We've tested it at home, and the live stream was jumpy and everything. And so, I'm like, this is not going to work. We get down there. I'm on the cell phone with them in the room. This is an hour and a half away from each other. And we fire up the drone, and I hit the live stream, and I just hear them. They're like, oh, we can see it. I'm like, okay, we're doing it, And so I'm at the park flying the drone on the phone with them. And Ashley's in the room holding the laptop so they can see.
Laptop was set up on their table, and I'm on the phone.
Right, she's coordinating. And it just started going, and the woman was, in confined to her bed. I think she had like an oxygen on, and she was kind of in and out. But the family was all there. It was like 3 generations of the family. And they started seeing things they recognized. And, they said, hey, there's a sledding hill to the north. We used to come there every winter, and we'd go sledding. So I just took the drone to the north, found this hill, and started, panning through the hill, and the whole family watched it, and they were talking about how that's where Grandma used to, do her thing. And there was boat docks and like the beach, and they just started telling stories and all this stuff. So Ashley's in the room with all these people reliving life's greatest. They're all crying in tears, and she's crying in tears at the same time, So that was our first experience. And we realized that's probably not the way we should, it should be an intimate thing for the family. So, we learned a lot from that. And we just started doing these over and over and over, and it started with live, and then it changed to let's just collect footage and go from there. So I was doing these for probably about a year, just by myself, and they were all local Cleveland experiences. Most people wanted to see the lake, the beach. We did downtown a couple times. We're way out east. We were in Cedar Point area. A lot of different places. And so from there, I knew like we were onto something. Like this is, we had a ton of different drone people that would reach out. We started getting stories in like the Washington Post, the Smithsonian did a thing, the Toronto Star did something, and then people all started reaching out and saying, how do we get involved? Drone pilots, hospices, a whole bunch of people. So from there, I decided we can, why don't we do this as a nonprofit organization? We can get funding and grants so that we can provide this as a free service, to the patients maybe and have enough, eventually to pay pilots and all that stuff. So we went through and, again, this is just us at home, did all the, the 1023 application. I'm sure Corey knows all about this. Did all that stuff, got the 501c3 designation, and then we started forming our board. I met with, does anybody know Kent Eiler? I think he's been at a couple of these meetings, but he had Eiler Aerial Imaging, and he reached out, and we got together and started talking about ideas, and said he would help, so he joined, he was committed to be a board member. And then we got from Hospice of the Western Reserve, he's actually the CEO from Hospice of the Western Reserve, said we have to do this, I can help, we'll get on. I got some people from work, some friends that were in, accounting and marketing and business and finance, and we started growing this thing to a nonprofit. So the vision is, we're going to do this as low cost as possible to all these hospices. Maybe eventually this becomes a business for the for-profit hospices. But since, those early days of me running around doing those things, I since, now, and actually I'll talk about the numbers, we've got pilots all over the world. We've done, 7 countries, I think now. I was telling Jason, I don't think I've flown a drone since maybe February or March. We're just coordinating all these things and talking to like some of the coolest drone people you'd ever meet. So that's how it all got started. And then now we're operating as a nonprofit. Ashley is running the nonprofit. She's the executive director. And I think she's going to tell you a little bit about what, how things work now and how we run the business.
All right. So, to jump off from where Tom left off, I'm actually going to start underneath that because he started talking a little bit about the live requests and how we ended up going to recorded requests. We still will look into doing a live request. We still think there's a place and a time for that, and I'll give you an example later on. But we realized for the most part, for hospice patients especially, timing is tough and scheduling with families is tough and technology can be difficult and quirky, obviously. So for the most part, we realized families really would just like the recorded version that they can watch at their leisure when they find a good couple of minutes, when they want to watch it over and over again, which we were still giving them a recorded version after the live video. But yeah, they just really appreciate that recorded version much more, where they can have a little bit more flexibility, I think. So yeah, we do many more recorded. I don't think we've done a live flight in over a year, actually. So our process, how we normally start this, is we work with hospice organizations, and they are talking to their patients and saying, just so you know, we offer this service. If there's a place that you would like to see, we can help you with that. And those hospice organizations will take the request and reach out to us with an address. We have taken a couple private requests where people have just found us. Someone found us on, I forget, it was like a brain tumor Facebook group, support group for families, and somehow, someone had talked about an experience with us there, and so they reached out to us, and we were able to bring them back to their family cabin that the mother hadn't been able to be at in years. So private requests, hospice requests, but most 90% are hospice oriented. We try to get them to give us an address. A lot of times people say, can you just fly over downtown? And we have to say, no, we can't. I'm sorry. We can try to get some special images, but the process works better when we have a specific location, definitely. So once we have a specific place, we work to find a pilot. And as Tom was saying, we have almost 200 volunteers right now in our list that I can go through and try to reach out to, but we all know how big this country is, this world is, so most of the time right now my network still isn't big enough that I can look at my list and say, perfect, so-and-so will have this done for me. It takes a little bit more research and digging, so I'll reach out to local businesses and pilots that I can find online, and if I can't find anyone there, a last resort, I'll try to reach out to some of the drone networks, maybe sometimes Drone Base or Drone Hive, and we have a program set up with Drone Base where, you know, at least they can expect our requests and they know what we're looking for the most part. So, but the footage is always better with local pilots for sure. After that, pilot goes out and gets the footage, hopefully as soon as possible, returns the raw footage to me, and then we pull in a volunteer editor. That's a new group. Before Tom's a self-taught amateur editor. I'm not sure if anyone's gotten into that very much, but you know, he did a really good job. He's a bit of a perfectionist, so they all looked wonderful, but it took him probably much longer than someone who had schooling for it. So we started to enlist the help of volunteer editors this year, and they have made all the difference in the world. They can do it in a couple of hours and crank out a fantastic product, and utilizing their knowledge much better than we can. So that has been invaluable to us this year. And then what we do is send the final product to them by link that they can download the video, just a digital file. We were working with Hospice Reserve of the Western Reserve, and they were requesting DVDs. They do have situations where their hospice patients are still at their home, but unable to access the internet even. We had an experience where one Hospice of the Western Reserve patient who didn't have internet, I don't think he even had a computer, just wanted to see Winterfest, the holiday lights downtown in Cleveland, and they couldn't drive him there. His situation, his sickness had changed, and it was too, he was too fragile basically to even take a drive downtown. So we were able to get the footage that Tom Wazinski, I think, has been to this group before, maybe, possibly, I can't remember, but he's another local pilot who did the footage in collaboration with the organization that put on Winterfest downtown. And so he said, here, just take it, you know, no problems, put it on a DVD, and so that was incredible. They took the DVD to this guy, and that was how he could see the lights downtown. So most of the time, again, we're sending just a digital file because it's faster, it's easier, it's cheap, and we can get it to them ASAP. So that's the current process for the most part right now. So right now, like I mentioned, we have around 200 volunteers in our network, and that is internationally. We have a lot of pilots from England, we have a couple in Italy, we have one or two from Australia. So we've just gotten some really, really wonderful coverage and a lot of really wonderful support. The thing with our pilots, they're all just really spectacular people. They've all either had an experience with hospice, with a family member or friend, or they just have a wonderful, supportive, generous spirit that they want to be able to help people. So every time I have a request, I get these two sides of the story. I get this incredible story behind the patient and why they might want to see that place, which helps me give information to the pilots on what they should be trying to get. And then I talk to this pilot who also comes from this amazing place and is sharing stories with me about their local city or helping me figure out the best way to get this video or what footage to get. So it's been really incredible working with both sides of this service. We have done 26 completed flights since March of 2018, where we were actually starting to keep track of things. But that's out of around 50 requests, unfortunately. So we're still having some difficulty. There's a few different things, you know, the timing, getting clearance to fly in a specific place before the patient, you know, unfortunately might pass. So, or at least be in a condition where they're able to enjoy and watch the video. And we have had a couple of instances where the family still requests the video, but for the most part, there's obviously a timing issue that's very sensitive with our situation and our service. So
it's a very tough. We're asking pilots to volunteer their time.
Right.
We're asking them to do it as fast as humanly possible because the time frame for the patients is obviously not very long. And sometimes we just have to find these people. You know, we'll go
randomly
to
attack them out of nowhere and be like,
Yeah.
hey, what are you doing this week?
right, or just if we don't have somebody, we go search that city drone pilots in Google, and then you get different websites of people, and you email them. And some people, pilots like you that care, and they're in groups and they do things. They'll say, yeah, I'm 2 hours away. I'll drive down there tomorrow, get you footage, and bring it back. So it's been amazing to see like the type of drone pilots and the community of drone pilots that get these things and start doing it. So had a lot of success there, but again, it's still tough to say, hey, I need this in 2 days and it's 2 hours away. Can you get out there? And
Yeah, or
So it's
like
been a
the
learning
international.
process.
Some of these, at least 10 of those requests that we weren't able to complete were international. Like Greece has crazy drone laws apparently. Not a big surprise, I guess,
Yeah.
but still.
There was an article in the Plain Dealer, and it was about someone who went to Italy. So now everybody's request is becoming so much more creative. They want to see Croatia, and they want to see Puerto Rico, and all that.
Where can they take us next?
Huntington Beach and Bay Village is out of the.
So of those requests, we've had 14 states plus Puerto Rico, which was a very special request, and then 6 different countries were the requests so far. Right now, we're working with 4 hospice organizations where we've actually set up a program. They've given us $950 to pay ahead for 10 flights that they can take out of their own kind of grant money. This is really a service qualified under palliative care, and I'm not sure if that's a term any of you are familiar with, but it's a little different than hospice. Hospice means you're more close to the end and you're receiving services to help make that as painless and keep you as comfortable as possible. Palliative care is a little bit more long-term maybe, and looking at different ways besides medicine to help the patient be comfortable, help the family be comfortable. So that's where they're able to kind of help us fund ourselves, and we're doing this service for them. So we're working with 4 organizations right now, and hopefully we'll be growing that soon. And that's in Iowa, Florida, and then 2 here in Cleveland. Then, like I mentioned before, we have our 10 volunteer editors that we've signed up. A few are pilots. We started working with Cuyahoga Valley Career Center to work with some of their video editing students, which has been awesome. Drone pilot students, I think, would be something down the road as far as reaching out to college programs and talking with them, because this is not rocket science, right? We're just going to a location, flying safely, and getting some really nice high quality images. And so I really think the volunteers on all levels, especially students, could be a really good resource for us. Our value, I was talking about this a little bit with the palliative care and how we fit into that type of service. Our value helps refocus patients, refocus their family. They're dealing with this incredible emotional weight, and this gives them a bit of a reprieve because they can focus on something else. I was just working with a woman last week, and who provided this quote. You just want to help. You just want to do something, and it's such a helpless situation for everyone involved that when you are actively doing something that will help a person, you feel a little bit better. And so I think that's part of what this service has been for the patient's loved ones, as much as the patient. It brings comfort to everyone, talking about the location and sharing those memories to say, okay, well, which location should we pick? Should we do our family hotspot, or one of our favorite parks that we like to spend time in? Remember the time when Danny ran his bike down this hill? Like, that process in itself has been, I think, a comforting distraction from the situation. And as the family and the patient move through this process, then they receive the video, then they have the video to share for the first time, but then watch over and over. It just brings a lot of comfort and peace to the family members, the loved ones, the friends, that they can share those times, share memories, talk with each other. It creates conversation, and again, refocuses everyone off of the impending weight of what is about to happen. So. And as I mentioned, afterwards, we get lots of feedback. We don't get lots of feedback, unfortunately. It's a very sensitive situation, obviously, and so we don't expect feedback. But when we receive it, we get word about how people really enjoyed watching the video afterwards. And then again, it just brings up those times about how they, not only the memories that happened long ago that they had discussed with the family member, and oh, so-and-so actually remembered this part, this story, but for them to have their own memories about watching that with the patient, I think that memento to keep and keep that person alive in their hearts, obviously. So, and obviously it's been rewarding for the pilots. The pilots have really appreciated being able to get out and do something that they know are making a huge impact on a person or several people at the same time. It's literally, you know, life-changing for them. I don't want to be too, I don't know, full of myself, but it's made a big impact. Much more, Tom and I, when we were originally talking about it, I was like, this is a fun, cute little idea, a little activity for them to do, just like they, you know, hospice has services that's just fun things for families to do. It's been much more impactful than that, and it's been humbling to see how significant it is to families and patients.
And I think overall, like the initial view was this live experience is going to be, you know, what the value is, so they can see and say, hey, take me over here, I want to see this, I want to see something, and they can watch. And we realized quickly that, you know, an unedited live drone feed is not great for, you know, somebody who is at end of life. So we quickly realized that we need to switch that to the recording. And you know, so some of the for the pilots, you know, when I started, it was you're taking the drone and you're doing these wide pullouts and you're going to do these cool sweeping shots. You kind of have to tone it down, and it becomes, you know, can you just hover over my backyard? I want to see my garden from above for 30 seconds, you know. So you got to give the drone pilots a little bit of a, you know, this isn't a, you know, action blockbuster film. This is kind of boring, but it's very impactful. So we learned all these things, and to the pilots, you know, we've had a couple scenarios where we had a pilot fly an experience for somebody. And then I think it was maybe a year later, we had an event downtown, and that pilot got to meet the family, you know, and it was crazy, you know, crying and, you know, goosebumps when these people talk to each other, because they're explaining.
It's a lot of crying in our business, unfortunately. It's good crying and sad crying.
You know, he has footage going down a street for 20 seconds, and to him that's probably the most boring thing he's done in, you know, years. But they say, hey, did you notice on the front porch there, that's where Jimmy fell off and we had to take him and get stitches, you know, and all these things that they are just, you know, remembering and going through. So we've realized that the value changed from this live, cool drone, high technology, streaming through YouTube or all these platforms, to a group of people getting together, talking about the best memories these people have ever had, you know, trying to relive those. And then you get the drone pilot who can deliver on that, you know, and, you know, not that taking pictures of houses for sale and construction stuff wasn't exciting, but like, this is the kind of thing you get done with the project, edit it up, and you give it to somebody and you get that feedback. The pilots just, you know, there's no money that can give you that feeling. So we've had a ton of great feedback, and we're starting to do profiles of all our pilots on our website, you know, posting a little bit about their experience, and then obviously, you know, their business and stuff. We want to make sure they get their names out there. So it's been incredible for the pilots, although a little bit, you know, toned down in terms of creativity and
go as
excitement.
Slow as possible. Yeah. They really do savor every detail in those videos. They are just scanning constantly. Yeah. So now we'll share a few of our experiences. I'm gonna try not to cry. But
well, I can give you the first one, because this is probably one of my favorite stories. Was we were working with a woman they were in Connecticut, I think near Boston, and they had reached out and they were figuring out where they wanted to go. And I think the next day, her husband died suddenly. You know, he was not in hospice, she was in hospice. He died, and she couldn't leave her bed. So they had the husband cremated, and they were going to spread the ashes, and she couldn't go. So they told us that, and we said, well, we can do the ceremony, we can live stream it. So we had a pilot. They went to this pond in, I think it was in Massachusetts somewhere, and the whole family was there. We had a pilot come. He stood on the other side, put his drone at about 100 feet in the air, maybe a little bit less.
A little lower, yeah.
And they did some things, and they watched, and they spread the ashes, and she live, saw this happening and was able to communicate with people. And that was like, and this guy was a great drone pilot. He had, a website with all these things. Sat his drone there, clicked up and let go. And, they gave him feedback, and the family was, blown away that she was able to experience this, obviously before she passed. And the pilot just got, he had, his feedback was like, again, he charges $250 an hour to do drone work. And he's like, I would do this free any day of the week, and keep them coming my way. He's like, I'll go anywhere that I can get to and do these for you. So that was one that I thought was real special from a pilot perspective and from the family as well.
That was the best scenario for the live feed too. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just where the live feed obviously makes much more sense versus the recorded version. Gadrano, Italy is a small town in Sicily. We had a request from a patient at Hospice of the Western Reserve. They had actually been to Sicily before. They had gotten the chance to visit maybe 10 years earlier. It was the patient's ancestral town. And they had this incredible experience where they went on a church trip, I think, right? But they had said, we'll just knock on a few doors and see if anyone recognizes our family name. They knock on a door and it's their cousins, like the odds of that. So the cousins, of course, they have to stay at their cousin's house. They just had a really magical trip. And so his request, he was dealing with a degenerative brain situation, brain sickness, and he couldn't speak much. He could only kind of make a few word sounds. But they really wanted to bring him back to Gadrano. And so we were able to we actually had a volunteer in Sicily. He was on the other side of the island, of course, but he was like, let me see what I can do. And the first week had horrible weather and he couldn't get out. Worked full time during the week, couldn't get out there on the weekend because of the weather. Another week comes by, and again, at least this patient, it didn't seem like he was, dealing with a situation that might be finalizing things soon. So we felt like we had a little more time, but you never know with a hospice patient. So our pilot said, this weekend looks good, I'm gone. He went out, took his 4-year-old son with him, and made a day trip of it, and got this incredible video, which I'm gonna show a little of. And it was just a very, very special experience. Now the challenge with this one, Sicily is horrible in the technology department. We did not see this coming. He had to mail us a hard drive because he did not have the bandwidth to upload a video. So again, we're like, okay, let's just get to the end of this. Let's get this video to the patient.
And I think he spent like $170 to express it within like 2 days. And we said we could send you a check. He's like, I'm good.
Don't worry about it. He was incredible. Yeah. So, and he got, this video is just spectacular. It helps when you're working with spectacular landscape, of course. But
and there's a part when he's in the city, and there's a woman on a balcony near the address we thought we want to go to, and so at one of these balconies down here, I think you can see her, and it turns out that was one of their family members, and they pointed out and saw her, and she's like waving at the thing. It was just an unbelievable coincidence that he was out there at the time these people were out on there. And he's got his
the
kid.
man's son. And Tom, when he was editing the video, he was like, should I include this shot? And I was like, it's so beautiful. I think you have to. And that ended up being a story. The wife said, look, that's just like your grandfather said he used to do when he was a child, was playing in those fields. So again, we just have these serendipitous moments where everything just lines up, and it just is very touching to the family and hits a spot that's much deeper than just getting a shot of this city, you know. Our next...
I was gonna say probably St. Barb's. We could show just a little bit. I
Yeah.
think this would be the last one we can show.
This is what Tom was talking about earlier with the...
So is anybody from the west side? This is St. Barb's on West 14th and
Yeah.
Denison, I think. And this is actually one of my best friends. His uncle, so his mom's brother, was in hospice, and all he wanted to do was see the old neighborhood, you know. So sometimes we'll make custom music. He gave me 20 songs, you know, Bruce Springsteen, Steve Miller, all these great songs, and he just wanted to see this place. So we put the thing together for him, and they said he had this thing on loop for like 3 days until he passed away. Everybody that came in, you know, he's got the music up. He would turn the music up at night and just listen to the music. So this was, you know, one of the, to me, probably my most meaningful, just because, you know, I know the family. But he would tell everybody, you know, these stories about every corner, every store, the bars down the thing. Steelyard Commons wasn't there when he was growing up. The highway wasn't there. You know, it was the woods where they played. You know, and he talked about all this stuff and had a story for every corner, every bar. You know, so they're, you know, and you know, his mom, they told us, like, we don't remember, you know, him being sick in hospice. This is what we remember. So, you know, and they actually also got to meet the pilot that did this here in Cleveland. You know, and that again was just an incredible meeting. So, you know, it's visually cool for a drone pilot, but again, these are, you can't even understand the value the drone pilots are giving unless you know some of the stories. So that was a pretty cool one.
All right, so we have a couple more examples if you guys want to see them later, but I'll just...
I can
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the, you know, again, wanted to give you guys a little bit of how it got started. If you're drone entrepreneurs, you know, I mean, it just takes a couple, you know, if you find a niche and you get somebody that supports it, you know, you can start something. A little bit about what we're doing now, obviously, and the folks we're working with. And then, you know, if you want to get involved in the Cleveland area, we probably have most pilots in the Cleveland area. You go to our website, you sign up and say, I'm willing to help. Give us your zip code. That way, if we get an address, we can say, you're probably within the area, we can find you. We're looking for video editors. You know, again, we need to do these with speed, and we usually just get a Google Drive link over to an editor. They pull it down, edit it, push up a final product real quick, go out. So if you're editing, you can, you know, and you want to spend an hour doing something in your spare time here and there, you can do that. But again, I think some of our biggest success has been drone groups. You know, we've had random drone groups reach out to us from Kansas or Kentucky or wherever, and they'll say, hey, we saw your thing, we read an article in AOPA about, you know, this thing, can our group get involved? And they say yes, and we get 15 pilots signed up. So, you know, as you guys are, you know, in the industry, if you know anybody and you're, you know, speaking with groups, feel free to share all this stuff. You can donate if you want to, but I don't like to push that. But yeah, so that was, you know, a little bit about what we do. Thanks for listening to us. And I don't know if you want to have any questions now or wait
let's do
till.
questions.
Okay. Yeah.
Regarding the footage that, with the exception of the Sicily, that was mailed to you, how are you having people transport? Are you using something like Dropbox for the massive memory here?
Yeah, we use Google Drive.
Google Drive.
So we send them a link, they upload everything, and then we just take that link, send it to the editor, they pull it down, then the editor puts a final MP4 back into that same
That
drive.
shared folder. Yeah.
And then we'll usually delete the footage or hold on to it for a little bit, but then we get rid of it all. So.
What's the most amount of sheer memory that someone has sent you in terms of footage? I mean, in terms of gigabytes.
Yeah, definitely Sicily was huge. Man, I'm trying to think. I know we got about 25 gigs from somebody who shot in 4K, and then I mean the other day somebody sent us a bunch of MFX files. That, so we've had probably 25 is the biggest, but what we've learned because. Talking about editing, I didn't know how to edit anything. I didn't know what kind of, people ask, like, do you want me to shoot in D-Log and all this stuff? I don't know what any of that means. And I'm just like, shoot it in 1080 and send it to us. So we try to, people wanted to send 4K because it's awesome, but I learned that editing in Premiere Pro takes forever when you got 4K, unless you do proxy files, and I didn't know what that was. So we try to say, give us 1080.
It's been a long learning process.
1080 to keep the size down. But yeah, that's been a challenge. That was the one thing we were, trying to figure out. And through the nonprofit, we get the G Suite products for free. So we just used Google Drive.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you have better ideas or any kind of
Yeah, we're
idea.
always open to ideas and process.
And I guess that's a good point. Another issue we run into is everybody has their own way they send footage to their customers and things. So we deal with, a professional outfit, and they say, okay, I'll just send you the link to like big file transfer or something, then we got to download it to a machine and then push it to Drive so we can send it over.
And seconds are valuable.
Yeah,
It's that
so-
little extra time. I can't spend half a day downloading and
Yeah.
uploading footage. That
Trying
would
to-
be much easier to.
Trying to standardize on Google Drive, and so far it's been sufficient.
Sufficient is a good word for it.
Yeah.
How do you handle? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, how long are these videos typically?
Yeah, we tell the pilots that we want enough for 5 to 7 minutes. We've had some that have been 30 minutes long,
Yeah.
and we've had some that were maybe
Two to
couple
3
2 minutes of
minutes,
footage,
yeah.
but then we'll take screenshots and do like some animated photos, that kind of stuff. But we shoot for 5 to 7, and then if it goes longer, it goes, we're fine.
I forgot to mention earlier too, obviously there's the situations where there's just places we cannot fly.
Yeah.
We just had an experience in Key West actually, and there's a base there, naval base I think, and an airport, and it's just, and the regulations are very high. The locals hate it, like it's just not
That
a
was
good
the other
place
thing
to
we
fly
learned, like,
apparently.
They hate drones. I
Apparently
guess.
you'll get attacked by locals if
Yeah.
you are, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? Bring it down.
Yeah.
So we had to opt. We had a situation, it was an unexpected situation. It was fast moving, so we needed to find somebody. So as soon as we figured out that drone footage was probably not going to be the easiest to get, we switched over to ground footage and just contacted some local videographers to help us get some video. I actually talked to a guy who has a drone, but had gotten some aerials before the regulations took place. So I felt fortunate to find him. So we had a nice video mixed with some aerial and some ground. So if there are locations, we also had one in Las Vegas, the Strip. No, we can't do that unfortunately without having like thousands of dollars to pay for it. So we got some ground footage of the Flamingo. It was their favorite place where they got married and spent tons of time. And then we got some aerials from outside the city that were in a safer, less regulated area to fly. So we do have those situations crop up as well in our programs and services. So what were you
I
gonna?
was curious about audio. Do you usually get suggestions for what people want to hear, or do you guys kind of?
Yeah. So when we first started, it was, what songs do you want? And I'd use, try to get the songs for them. And we realized that's, probably not the most legal way to share stuff. It's not that we were making money or they were sharing it publicly, but we, as the board, we talked about it, and so we stopped doing that. We have a local band, I guess you call them. They donate. They said just use anything in our
Really beautiful
gallery,
instrumental music that
category.
fits
So
well, yeah.
so we use that, and if it's somebody we've known, we'll do specific music, but we're getting away from that. We've reached there's been a couple if I'd say celebrities, but like people that reached out and said we'd be willing to create music that you guys could use for the organization. So I think in the future we're going to try to, get bigger and bigger, and maybe get somebody whose name you may know to put some music behind it. John Tesh or something.
Do all your videos have the music component, or some just pure silent?
We've used I think audio in every one of them, and then there's been a couple that actually have, when there's ground footage, people they know that will speak, or we've had live music, like a guy playing on stage that we were able to record and they use. But yeah, it's usually got the bass music. It's kind of serene, kind of low music.
The music that we use right now for the most part. This is Ireland. This was a cool request where the patient grew up in this town. We have a lot of patients that are from some really spectacular places here in Cleveland. You'd never really think of it, but
yeah, it's been the Cleveland Clinic brings people come to Cleveland for this, and I think we have a Florida where they came from Florida because they needed a procedure to save their life. And they came up and said it's not going to work, and they're here in Cleveland until the woman passes
they're
away.
too
Essentially,
sick to fly home.
So they're never going to see their home and things again. So, this is the way they can see it and see it from a cool perspective and everything.
And their house is located just off a tarmac, so
they back up to an airport. Yeah.
Good situation. Any other questions?
Cool. Yeah. Any other questions?
Just curious. I don't know if this is far-fetched, but have you ever had requests for indoors in terms of large cavernous spaces, like a cave or a cathedral, or what?
Yeah.
With things being so personal.
Right. Yeah. We've definitely had larger churches where they wanted to fly around. I don't think they ever
no
put it up.
No one's ever asked inside, that I've known of, but that's an interesting idea.
But there's a ton. So we'll have, even the drone pilot will be outside, and then they go in and walk around and get footage. We've even done, I ride motorcycles, and one guy wanted to go on a motorcycle ride, and he was from Lorraine. I put a GoPro on, and I rode my motorcycle through Lorraine, and went to a couple places, and kicked him out of video, and so yeah, we'll do anything you want.
He'll do anything, yeah. Now we need a network of motorcycles.
But yeah, so those things are always, and there's times when people we want to go to our kids' soccer game, and it's like, well, you could probably FaceTime or something to do that. Don't know, if the drone is absolutely necessary, but we're getting into all different things. On our slide, we talked about where we're going, and there's medical research about Alzheimer's. If you can fly in a neighborhood, they start to remember, and it starts jogging their brain, and there's positive things that happen there. We want to get into, we've talked to on, the armed forces military service side. So if we have a veteran in hospice, we're going to start tagging our pilots that are veterans or active duty. They're going to do the experience and share that bond. So, a lot of different things going on.
There's a lot of YouTubers that do that kind of scenery.
Yes. I know. I want to find a good way to utilize that. I literally have a request right now for Niigata, Japan. And I'm having trouble reaching a pilot, but I found this YouTube video that has beautiful scenery so we also had a request a month ago of Machu Picchu. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to be doable for us. The guy has to hike up a mountain, and it's like a couple days, I think. I was like, here's some really cool YouTube links that you can check out, though. So we want to find a good balance of, making sure we utilize our resources and do what we want our service to do, but maybe as a last resort, or I definitely use YouTube to find pilots. So I'm trying to reach out to this pilot. I don't know how it'll go.
And that's a good, and I think that's what makes our thing unique sometimes is, if we wanted to see probably downtown by drone, you could YouTube it and find it. But what we get into is, these people that are in hospice, and it's like, I need to see 1901 Court Street in Superior, Wisconsin. Like, you're not going to YouTube to find that. So it's
Right,
it's
that's
those
more of our
intimate
sweet
ones that
spot,
make more
yeah.
sense, you know.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's been like, can we just send them some links and say, here, check the, you know, this is what you're looking for. So it's been interesting.
Yeah, finding a good balance where I'm not just desensitizing the situation. You know,
Right, yeah.
actually, you could Google this,
Yeah.
and this is it. But yeah, that's why also asking them for a specific address makes more sense, because you know, what do you want to see? You could try to find these other places or general videos of cities. What is most interesting or personal to you?
I think that's a good point. Does anybody use what 3 words? Have you ever heard of that?
The location.
Have you heard of it? Yeah.
So these guys cut the world into 3 meter by 3 meter squares, and you get these 3 words, and that is the square. So like, we get people that say, I want to see the Cleveland Metro Parks, or I want to see, you know, some place, and it's huge, you know, or like, so these get you right to the location. So we started working with them, and they're going to help us, you know, do this thing. I just didn't know if pilots were.
I forgot to tell you,
using
we
that
had a
yet.
cabin request, and they're like, "There's no address.
There's
We're
no
working on
addresses in these
GPS
places,
coordinates."
you know,
and I was like,
it's-
"Actually, check out this site, see if
Yeah.
you guys can use it." So.
And it's all over the world, so, you know, some of these countries don't have an address system. So.
Yeah. So, any other
Cool,
questions?
yeah. Well, thanks everybody.
you
I know
so
that was
much.
kind of long,
Yeah.
but